In this video, we focus on the so-called Great Conjunction, the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, which takes place exactly on the winter solstice, which is the 21st of December 2020. We will also talk about what this might have to do with the Age of Aquarius. Brotherhood of the Eternal Light, Teaching the Western Mysteries. Welcome to your channel about Kabbalah, the Western Mysteries and Kabbalistic Astrology. Before we start, we would like to announce something that might be of interest to you. Do you want to learn with us to understand the deeper mysteries of this meaningful event? Would you like to meditate with us on the astrological and cosmic forces? Do you want to contribute to a new age together with us? Then we invite you to use this unique opportunity to join us online on December 21st, 2020, the day of the Great Conjunction and of the winter solstice. Further information in the video description and in our newsletter. Jupiter and Saturn have come closer and closer over the past few months. Between the 17th and 20th of December, both changed from Capricorn to Aquarius, where they formed the Great Conjunction in less than 1 degree Aquarius on the 21st of December. A so-called Great Conjunction only takes place approximately once every 20 years. The Great Conjunctions have been observed and documented since ancient times and during the Middle Ages. They were regarded as a special and often drastic astrological influence, and were often associated with major events or suspected to be related to catastrophes. The Great Conjunction in mundane astrology. The Great Conjunction was associated by classical astrologers such as the Persian Albumirzad, who lived from 787 to 886 AD, with political events, changes of power and offices, as well as changes to the law. In the late Middle Ages, this conjunction was also generally considered to be challenging, possibly because Saturn was seen as a messenger of bad luck. Perhaps it was also due to the fact that fate, Saturn, and rulership, Jupiter, come together, and that out of this gathering, changes can arise, like, for example, social unrest, wars, and changes of ruling. From the perspective of Qabbalistic astrology, a planet cannot simply be described as negative and another as positive. The meaning of the planets is based on the spiritual principles on the tree of life. These spiritual principles describe the qualities, meanings, and interactions of the astral forces assigned to them, which is indicated by the respective planet. None of the planets or sephirot can be defined per se as negative or as a bringer of misfortune. The forces of all planets, depending on their position, can be inhibited or influenced in an unfavorable way, or, on the contrary, can express themselves in a strengthened and beneficial way. All planets are assigned different virtues and vices, which are derived from their underlying meaning by their associated sephirot. The interpretation of the planet's position and of their interactions depend on where they are on the radix and on our understanding of these constellations. If you'd like to learn more about this subject, watch our video, Introduction to Qabbalistic Astrology. Also visit our upcoming webinar series in Qabbalistic Astrology. All links in the video description. Let us now look at the meanings of the planets involved, Jupiter and Saturn, in Qabbalistic astrology. The Sephirah on the Kabbalistic tree of life, which underlies the meaning of Jupiter, is Chesed. Chesed means mercy or love. Jupiter corresponds to attributes like generosity, goodness, and order. The position of Jupiter shows, among other things, how our morals and values are expressed. The Sephirah on the Kabbalistic tree of life that underlies the meaning of Saturn is Binah. Binah means understanding. It is a passive and limiting principle. The name of the Sephirah Binah stands for gaining understanding of one's own fate and taking responsibility for it. Saturn corresponds to attributes like restriction, fate, and seriousness of life. The position of Saturn shows us how and in which area of life we express our discipline and seriousness. In a conjunction, the forces of both planets work together for better or for worse. In the Great Conjunction, the worldview and rulership, Jupiter, are connected with the destiny and the seriousness of life, Saturn. It is about how the values and conditions of a ruling system, Jupiter, influence the life or fate of people, Saturn, and what possibilities, Jupiter, and limits, Saturn, there are. In a conjunction, the moral concepts and the ruling system that influence society tend towards severity, seriousness, and restriction. Interpretation of the Great Conjunction on the 21st of December 2020 in the winter solstice. What is the Great Conjunction that will take place on the 21st of December 2020, the day of the winter solstice, about? The exact conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter will take place in Aquarius on Monday the 21st of December at about 12:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Before this, the two planets are already approaching each other closely while they are still in the sign of Capricorn. Saturn will enter the sign of Aquarius on December 18th, and Jupiter will enter on December 20th. The Great Conjunction will thus gain power with the Capricorn quality and finally unfold its full potential with the Aquarius quality. Capricorn is the sign of ambition and striving for performance. It is about determination and eagerness to work, perseverance, and thrift. Saturn rules in Capricorn. With these qualities, the power of Saturn can unfold very well. However, the Capricorn quality is not ideal for the expression of the Jupiter forces, because Jupiter is the planet of growth, value, and morals. When it is in Capricorn, it is in its fall. So, while Jupiter is still in Capricorn, we can expect expressions of Jupiter's vices, such as tyranny, narrow-mindedness, opportunism, and blind obedience. Also conceivable is the expression of the problem of Capricorn, stubbornness. This suggests that while the conjunction is applicative, i.e., the two planets approach each other in Capricorn, we are experiencing a time of compulsion, discipline, severity, dogmatism, and intolerance. As in recent weeks with the renewed coronavirus lockdown, the events surrounding the US election, and the implementation of the new National Security Act in Hong Kong. In the sign of Aquarius, the sign of superpersonal values, freedom, and human rights, where the exact conjunction will take place, Saturn is in its domicile too. Jupiter is no longer in its fall there. The exact conjunction thus corresponds to the qualities of a ruling system and a social behavior based on self-discipline and the assumption of responsibility for oneself, which are strongly linked to the welfare, freedom, and rights of all people. However, we will only achieve this quality on the 21st of December, and from then on, we can expect improvements in, for example, politics and other important areas. Furthermore, the question arises whether this day could be seen as the beginning of the Age of Aquarius, or as an important moment in the transition phase into the new age, since the beginning of the new eon, as it is often called, must of course be seen as a transitional phase. More on this in a moment. While the Great Conjunction is certainly the strongest current factor in the mundane astrology, we find other constellations of interest, and we will briefly look at their impacts in the context of current events. There is also a conjunction of Uranus and Lilith in the sign of Taurus. Uranus is the planet that indicates how an impulse for further development is received. It is in its fall in Taurus, as Taurus stands, among other things, for permanence, which can lead to uncontrolled impulsiveness as well as chaos or suppressed development. Lilith is the planet of the passive shadow side. The conjunction of Uranus and Lilith take place in Taurus, the earth sign with a fixed quality, and thus suggests either stagnation and inertia, or, if at all, very unbalanced transformations that emerge as chaotic impulses. For example, we can expect chaotic developments, but also violent protests and social unrest. In addition, Uranus is in retrograde, which may increase its chaotic and unexpected expression. Another remarkable aspect at the time of the Great Conjunction is the square between Pluto and Mars. Pluto, the planet of relentless striving, determination, extremism, and abuse of power, is in Capricorn, which stands for, among other things, ambition. Mars, the planet of energy and assertiveness, is in its domicile, Aries, the sign of impulsiveness. The square indicates a conflict or energetic friction between the forces and expression of the two planets. Through the square, there is a connection between the impulsiveness and energy of Mars in Aries and the ambitious radicality of Pluto in Capricorn, which can bring an explosive situation through. For example, the potential aggressiveness of Mars or possible extremism, Pluto. If we look at this in the context of the Great Conjunction, where the issue of rulership and politics is particularly relevant, it is conceivable that reckless behavior or hasty radical decisions could be the consequence. Finally, another important feature is the fact that the Great Conjunction takes place on the day of the winter solstice. It is the day with the longest night of the year, from which days slowly becomes longer again. The day of the winter solstice is traditionally considered an important festival celebrating the return of light. To learn more about the light festivals, watch our forthcoming video about light symbolism. The conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius at the winter solstice brings optimism and positivity after a very turbulent year. Nevertheless, the planetary position shows us that chaos and extremism are not over at this point. The element cycles of the Great Conjunctions. To put it simply, great conjunctions always take place in the signs of the same element for a period of about 200 years. This element shapes the time quality of this period according to its nature. This period, which lasts a total of about 800 years, is comprised of 4 cycles of 200 years each, beginning with the fire element, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, then Earth, then Air, and finally water. Then a new period begins. This 800-year period, which consists of the 4 element cycles, is considered in classical astrology to be a historically relevant epoch for ruling systems or for the influence of prophets. Since the Great Conjunction in the air sign Libra in 1980, we have been in an air cycle. This means that from then on, the next 10 Great Conjunctions will take place either in the signs of Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, and that this period will be characterized by themes that belong to the air element. This period is about influences in the area of information exchange, communication, mental agility, Gemini, as well as harmonizing balances and connections of opposites, Libra, and the increased emergence of idealistic topics such as superpersonal ideals and humanity, Aquarius. The Age of Aquarius and the Great Year. There are several astrological circles that represent different cycles. We find the circle of the day, which is created by the rotation of the Earth around itself and represents the cycle of a day from one sunrise to the next. This circle corresponds to the astrological houses and refers to the life areas of a person. Furthermore, there is an annual circle, which is created by the orbit of the Earth around the Sun. Seen from Earth, it looks as if the Sun is moving around the Earth. This apparent orbit of the Sun is called ecliptic. The circle begins at 0 degrees Aries, the vernal equinox, where the Sun crosses the equatorial plane from bottom to top. This circle corresponds to the signs of the zodiac and refers to human ideals and basic types. There is also an aeon circle, which is created by the fact that the slightly inclined axis of the Earth slowly moves 360 degrees backwards through all constellations over a period of about 26,000 years. This circular motion of the Earth is called precession. 1 degree corresponds to a period of 72 years, i.e. approximately 1 human lifetime. If we take the 360-degree zodiac with its 12 signs of the zodiac as a unit of measurement, in which each of the signs corresponds to a section of 30 degrees, the movement through one of the signs corresponds to 2,160 years. The circle of aeons is sometimes called the Great Year or Platonic Year, which measures about 26,000 years and counts 12 Platonic months of 2,160 years each. This circle represents the development of mankind as a whole, and each sign of the zodiac describes a certain basic quality, which is decisive in the respective astrological age. According to occult science, the earth sign of Taurus stands for the age of Isis, or the age of the Mother Goddess. The fire sign Aries describes the epoch of Autumn Ra, or the age of monotheism. The water sign Pisces marks the epoch of Osiris, or the age of the sacrifice god. Finally, the air sign Aquarius, which we are currently transitioning towards, represents the epoch of Horus, or the age of individual development. One difficulty in assessing our current position in the Age of Pisces and in determining when we will enter the Age of Aquarius is that it is not possible to define exactly when the change from one sign to the next takes place. If we take the actual constellations as a basis, several difficulties arise. The constellations have different lengths, they partly overlap, and the astrological ages, i.e. the Platonic months, would cover such different periods or could not be clearly separated from each other. If instead we refer to the 30-degree signs of the zodiac, we obtain a uniform measure of time, but face the difficulty that we would still have to define where exactly an age should have begun and where it ends, and we cannot do this with absolute precision. So there is a certain amount of uncertainty, and that is why we talk about the transition from the Age of Pisces to the Age of Aquarius. Perhaps it is even questionable in the end whether we absolutely need accurate data. In the science of history, too, when looking at past ages, for example the Neolithic period, no exact data can be determined, but instead we primarily operate with time periods to which certain qualities specific to them are assigned. Therefore, from an astrological perspective, we are in good company with, for example, the science of history. The astrological perspective refers to the astral influences. It is concerned with the forces that act on our astral and material reality when we construct a philosophical construct that postulates other levels of consciousness and reality in addition to our physical reality. As it was already common in ancient and medieval philosophy and is still done today in some modern schools of thought. Occult philosophy transcends, so to speak, the world of tangible things and uses astrological paradigms to draw conclusions about cosmic influences and the factors underlying creation, and it is precisely here that the great circle of world ages is one of the concepts that help us to understand what phase of human development we are in. Just as the circle of the year or horoscope can give us information about the mental powers and predispositions that a person was given at birth for this incarnation. So what is the transition from the Age of Pisces to the Age of Aquarius about? From a spiritual point of view, we are currently in a transitional phase to the Age of Aquarius. Interestingly, 7 years BCE, there was a great conjunction in the sign of Pisces, which today is occasionally associated with the beginning of the Age of Pisces and the myth of the Star of Bethlehem, which was followed by the 3 wise magi. While the Age of Pisces was about the development of religiousness in connection with the theme of the sacrifice god, we find figures like Osiris, Balder, and Jesus. The Age of Aquarius is about a more philosophical ideal impulse of freedom and individuation of mankind. The Age of Aquarius and its transitional phase is also interpreted as spiritual because it is associated with the spiritual movements of the 19th and 20th centuries, such as Theosophy, the Golden Dawn, and its successors, as well as the New Age. Accordingly, we hope that with our videos we can contribute to bringing the spiritual impulse and the development of humanity to a higher level. If you like this video, leave us a like. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell. Feel free to write us in the comments about which other astrological topics you are interested in. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!